I think Madison states his purpose in the Federalists, in fact, his part in the founding, probably best in Federalist 39, when he says that the American people who fought the Revolution, won't settle for anything less than a Republican form of government. So we have to look at this new Constitution and judge whether it is really a Republican form of government. Why a republic? Popular government is what they meant by republic, small r. Because this is a government in which the people rule themselves, self-government. That was the goal of Madison. That was his vision. More than anything else, that was his vision for America throughout his life. And he was dedicated to finding a way for the great experiment in self-government to succeed in this new land.
James Madison is such an important figure for all of our early formative years. For the Constitutional Convention, this was just a terribly important event for him. He had started in public life at the Virginia Constitutional Convention in 1775 as a very young man. He had been thinking about constitutions for his whole career, 12 years. He'd been at the Annapolis Convention. And he was a bookish, thoughtful man. So what he wanted to do was plan this all out. He didn't believe in just going in and shucking and jiving with the people. He just wanted to know what he wanted at the end and plan for how to get there.
This was Madison's life. He was the scholar's scholar, even more than a politician. He cared about his home country of America, and he saw that the Articles of Confederation were failing. And what Madison was dedicated to, which many of the founders were also dedicated to, was what they called the great experiment in self-government. Now think back. In 1787, free government had never really worked in the world. There had been attempts, fleeting attempts, that, well, Hamilton says in Federalist 9, well, they might sometimes dazzle us with a fleeting brilliance. It's only that fleeting. There were the ancient republics of Greece. They didn't last long. There was the Roman Republic. But what happened to Rome? It became an empire, and the people lost their liberties. Madison wanted to try to figure out if there was any way to make popular government, government by the people, make it good government and make it lasting. So in the months leading up to the convention, he sat with his books and he studied ancient and modern confederacies, as well as ancient and modern republics. And he tried to find out what are the vices, what are the things that have caused these other nations to fail in their experiment in popular government. And so he made up a little kind of an essay called, which we call Vices of the Political System of the United States, in which he listed these things. What are the problems under the Articles, and can we fix these things?
The Vices of the Political System was an opportunity for Madison not only to articulate the idea of a large republic, but also to talk about the motives of politicians. And what we see with Madison is that he didn't believe that politicians had one single motive. They had a variety of motives. Some would be virtuous, some would not be virtuous. Some would be self-interested, some would be public interested. And we begin to see, I think, some of the sense in which Madison sort of begins to formulate how constitutions should be designed to get the best out of elected officials.
So what Madison observes is a dysfunction of this government that's really brought about by the fact that the Confederation Congress is just radically decentralized and unable to, with any real authority, govern the new world, this new country. So how to go about solving this problem? And the Madisonian vision that's famously reflected in the beginning point of the Constitutional Convention is a plan of much greater power for the central government, a kind of almost a unified government, one in which the federal government is supreme in many ways, It's a single branch, apportioned by population, and with powers centralized in it that were not reflective in the Articles of Confederation, and one in which the federal government could actually reach into the states and nullify laws that were inconsistent with Madison's strong national vision. And so that's his start. And it looks like, before we get into the politics of the convention, it looks like a diagnosis and a possible plan that is surprisingly widely shared among at least the elites who were involved in the convention.
All throughout history, essentially, political philosophers and politicians believed that free government, popular government, government by the people, could only work in a small territory. This is what Aristotle and Plato taught. In fact, Plato said it has to be 5,040 citizens, not even the size of a medium-sized university today. Because if you get any larger and become an empire like Persia, it will become despotic. So in order to have popular government, you have to limit the size to a very small population and extent of territory. But then the problem with that was, if you do that, it's easy for a majority faction to form. And what he discovered in his researches was that if we extend the republic and take in a greater number and variety of interests and religious sects, some of these will cancel each other out, the ones who have selfish interests and prejudicial passions. And that what can emerge from that, because it's going to take more time in a large republic to form a majority, it's going to be harder, first of all, and secondly, it's going to take more time. What happens with more time? Well, people can think things through more. There's deliberation, what Fisher Ames calls a sober second thought, to calm the passions, and so that the reason of the public might sit in judgment. That was Madison's scheme.